Hi, welcome to The Juice, the ADHD-friendly podcast that skips the small talk and gets straight to the good stuff.
Real talk, no
Okay.
fluff.
So I wanted to do an episode on ADHD and relationships because if you have ADHD, there is a very high likelihood that you find relationships, whether they're romantic relationships, I think that's what you say. Hell, some of them aren't even that romantic.
look at
Why do
me.
they call them romantic? Coupley relationships or friendships.
Sexual and non-sexual.
And look,
Funny enough, ADHD people are probably very bad at doing romantic, I imagine.
they're not subtle.
No.
I tried flirting once and it didn't end.
Once. Just the once. Attention and presence. This is the thing, girls, because we're just constantly craving new. I know you do that.
Yes,
And I do too.
it's a lot.
You just get bored very quickly. Not out of choice, but just...
And I think that's the thing too, because I've been in relationships. I mean, I've had so many relationship combustions, and that was one of the whole reasons why I wanted to go through the diagnosis process.
Right.
It was so that I could learn more about myself and just stop fucking them up. And there's so many parts of ADHD that have contributed to my relationship breakdowns, but definitely like that feeling of needing more, feeling restless, and then also looking at other people and thinking, how come they're fine just in their relationships, just doing their
That whole
going to work
comparing
and-
yourself to other people
Yeah.
thing is a real big deal, isn't
How
it?
come
Yeah.
they seem really happy? I'm like, yes, okay.
What's wrong with me? Do you find that it's problem principally with your romantic relationships versus friendships? Like, what's the difference between those two?
The key difference is in romantic relationships.
We've got to do that every time now.
Romantic. Can we play Barry White in the background when
we
we're
should
talking
do
about
that, yeah.
romantic relationships?
Put that into the back top.
The biggest one for me has been my emotional dysregulation.
Right.
And, you know, I just have this, when I'm overwhelmed, I will freak out and say things I don't mean and just be an actual nightmare. With friends, I don't do that. With friends, I get overwhelmed and disappear. So it's
Yeah,
like I'm
right,
dead.
okay.
Like, they're like, where are you?
So there's an ability to just extract yourself in that stage when you know it's coming on.
That's right.
And just, I guess it's probably a little bit more subtle for me. I've had in relationships that I've lasted for a long time, but I probably wasn't that happy in them either. Not being able to deal with difficult situations. If I find there's conflict involved, then I will either step down and just allow the other person to do what needs to be done, or I go the other way. Rather than blowing up, I kind of pull back and just disappear. Rejection Sensitivity Dysphoria, which is, I only heard that term probably only a few months ago, and it was so resonant for me. How important that has been in my life of wanting to be liked, I guess. If anyone hasn't heard of this and they're kind of listening and wondering what it is people with ADHD tend to be hypersensitive to being rejected or turned down. For me, it was just a naturally allowing the other person to get what they want, because it's easier to do that than it is to stand up for myself. I tend to have lost out in certain scenarios, sometimes quite often in business as well, where there's been a conflict and I will just naturally give way immediately because it's easier to do that than it is to deal with the conflict. And that can cost time, money, reputation.
For us, criticism hurts so much more. The reason that we have RSD is because stats show that kids with ADHD have received 20,000 more negative messages than kids without ADHD by the time of the age of 10.
You can't tell me that doesn't have an influence on the way someone behaves.
Yeah, and that's all those formative years, right? So it makes sense that
Exactly.
that the RSD has also been a massive issue in relationships, because there are areas that I'm particularly sensitive about,
Right.
which are usually aligned with my highest values. If somebody says something to me, and it may not even be a criticism, it could just be pointing something out that is absolutely fine. I hear it as a criticism, it stabs the emotional dysregulation.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, I'm triggered. Here we go. I'm going to say stuff I really don't like, and then I'm going to,
And then regret it
have a big
afterwards.
meltdown in Memphis. After that, I'm going to be like drowning in shame and regret. Like,
That shame was a big thing for me. And I didn't really even realize at the time until after I got my diagnosis that was a an important part of this kind of
Difference.
difference. Sorry, that's a good word. I like it. Yeah, it is a difference, I suppose.
Yeah.
And it can be. I can't remember what we're talking about. This is another thing. Isn't
We
it?
both
It's
have
like,
ADHD, so we're just go.
Stay on track.
RSD, the criticisms, and then the shame after a blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right, that is a massive part of ADHD, and that has been something as well that I know that people will feel. If you have ADHD, it's a high likelihood that you are experiencing these things, so that you're
To a
experiencing.
degree,
Yeah, like that RSD with criticisms really, really hurts so much more than a neurotypical person because of all the criticisms we've had our entire lives. It makes sense and it's okay. Yeah. And then to be triggered, and then to have a big Memphis, and then to be in regret.
It's interesting though, because I rarely get those kind of big breakaway meltdown things. That's not
outwardly.
No, that's not really a thing for me. I would definitely feel the shame of not being good enough. You've set yourself a task, or someone else has, and you've done it to the best of, we feel like the best of your abilities, but it hasn't, well, in fact, more often than not, you've done a really good job, but it never feels like you have.
Yes.
And it's like, well, where is the measure there? Because the other person was happy.
Everybody's out celebrating.
Yeah,
I'm just relieved.
The feeling of joy that people get at finishing a task, that just so rarely happens to me. It's always for me just this sense of like, oh, thank Christ that's over.
No, when you've achieved something that's taken a lot of hard work.
It's just genuinely a sense of, oh, Christ. So pleased not have to do that anymore.
Exactly. There's something that I've learnt lately around that, because with emotional regulation, for me being a big reason why relationships haven't worked in the past, I'm learning strategies now. So I'm working with a therapist. You know, it's just like the year of
Fixing Amy.
fixing is going to take a lot longer than mate. Jeepers, I don't know what I was thinking about.
You're not broken, Amy.
Being able to regulate and not go straight into a Memphis meltdown. So what I'm trying to do by sharing it, if somebody can learn something and perhaps try it, and if it works, or even if they want to go as far as getting an ADHD counselor or ADHD coach, what we do is just as soon as I get triggered, I just have to notice the feeling, because this is the other thing, people with ADHD quite often are disconnected from their feelings, and I am very much so.
Absolutely.
So people say to me, how are you, Amy? And I'll say, alive? I don't really know how I am a lot of the time. So what I'm learning to do is actually try and feel the feeling. My partner says something and I'm like, oh, trigger alert. What are you feeling? And that's massive.
It reminds me of something I learned when I was doing my training for coaching. What emotions are and why they're useful, but also why they're not useful. They're just guideposts, right? They're a process your body goes through when it experiences something, which is a guidepost to where you might be. And absolutely they're connected, as you said, with your core values, and you feel them because of that, but they're not always right. Sometimes they're good and sometimes they're useful, and sometimes they're just total nonsense, not really very useful. And it made such a difference to me. I was like, oh, okay. So it's not just, I'm not just right about everything in the way that it comes into my brain and body, because you feel it in your body sometimes, don't you?
Yes. Not necessarily so, but you have to try to.
Yeah. Separating them and recognizing they're two distinct things, being able to choose the response versus just reacting.
Noticing where it is in your body, because I tend to not be able to do that. And that took me quite a while. I had to really sit with it and think about it. And then I finally recognized where it was coming from. I think it was my chest. Yeah. And then I was able to just take a minute and just sit with it. And then without any judgment, say it's okay, because if you have ADHD, you're highly likely very, very self-critical. So when you're actually noticing the feeling, you've got you've got another layer of the judge saying, you're such a dip for feeling that emotion. Loser. What are you feeling that for in the first place? But you have to notice that as well. And that is not real. The judge is not real. Judge doesn't insist. And okay, so you get rid of the judge. We'll notice the judge, shut the judge down. It's okay. And then you can get to a place when your breathing's okay and you're not about to have a Memphis.
I'm forever going to call it a Memphis now.
Come to a solution as say, look, I'm feeling this way. Approach it from a position of vulnerability rather than attack.
Yeah, that can be difficult. You do want to go on attack sometimes. Another point there's in the list here was about that kind of communications mismatch as well, because we do jump from topic to topic. And I know when me and you sit and have a glass of wine or whatever, it's all over the shop, but we know where we're at. Like anyone sat listening would never be able to follow what's going on.
Really? But that's the thing. Well, I had no idea that people didn't. Actually didn't realize I spoke like that.
No, I didn't either.
No, we just go.
And my partner told me actually, I was all over the place, but it felt like a really good conversation to me. And she's like, just slow down. You've got about eight tracks going on. Yeah, but I know where they're all at. They all have some relationship to the thing that we originally started talking about. They're not like completely unrelated. And eventually they will come back. You know that Dolby THX sound that they play in cinemas where it goes. There's a big noise. They all go
I
up.
know that had a name. That's so nerdy, but yeah.
Yeah. I've got a degree in acoustics. What do you
Yes,
want?
I
Right?
know the Dolby.
But you know the sound, and then it comes to the end, and everything's in harmony, and they're all out of harmony and tune, and it comes to the end, and it's like that. That's what a conversation feels like. Me, it starts off on one note, it goes into a whole bunch of different like dissonances and harmonies, and then comes back. That Dolby sound is like the sound of my life.
The brain is just like. Yesterday, my partner said to me, "Okay, there's too many tabs open right now. So can we just work on closing some tabs?"
Yeah.
And then we had to have a chat about closing tabs. Have you had your medic? Yeah, be inside. Oh, well, actually, no, I did this my last one.
Yeah.
I had no idea I was doing it.
I missed 2 days last weekend because I was away. I'd been feeling really kind of steady, being on the Ritalin, and then I had a couple of days where I missed it. And then for probably 2 or 3 days afterwards, it took me a while to come right again. I've never noticed that before because I haven't skipped taking the medication, and I've been taking it for just over a year now. I didn't miss having it at the time, partly because I was away, I was riding motorcycles, so I was having fun, and it was good, you know. But when I got back, there was this big slump afterwards. It took me 2 or 3 days to get back to normal, whatever that is.
So having the medication has helped my relationship so much because we don't realize that we perhaps seem disconnected, or the way that we speak is fragmented.
A couple of people had said to me at the time, you just don't seem yourself, right? And I was like, because I'm perfectly normal. What are you talking about? This is me. And then I was like, actually, maybe I'm not. I think that's really useful when people know that you should welcome them to say that to you, I think. Like, I would never be offended when... Then this is one of the things that we are quite good at, is we don't really get offended where people say something that's honest like that. You might get offended by something that's kind of not meant in the right way, but when someone genuinely comes to you and says, you just don't seem yourself, and it's like, oh, okay, all right, good, that's good to know.
I'm quite black and white, prefer not to have any vagueness, and so I don't have any problem with people being straight up and saying, can you leave or now please, or that type of thing is absolutely fine to me because it comes from a good place, you can tell.
Of course, yeah. Especially if you trust that person.
Yes.
I think that might be like a mildly ADHD.
Yes, I've been taught. My therapist also told me, I'm pretty sure I also have
That's
as well.
I'm also in that game as well, so I get it.
But I'm just gonna...
Yeah, other stuff to deal with. I can't deal with that.
Yes, so having to have clarity, and sometimes the way that comes across to people in relationships that could seem a bit rude or a bit blunt, the way that we communicate sometimes, but actually we're just being clear.
And I think this is why it's useful to actually get a diagnosis if you believe that you do have it, because it allows your partner it gives your partner the ability to understand a little bit better where you're at and how to deal with you, because it's very difficult for someone, I imagine, in a relationship with someone with ADHD who doesn't know for sure that that's there. They're never really sure what's playing out at the time. But when you have that kind of seal of approval, that stamp on the paper that says that's what you've got, then it gives that person the ability to go, okay, I see now. It's not he's not being a dick, actually. There is something going on here which makes sense when I understand how differences and how their brains work.
Things come up in relationships for you, and how do you manage them?
The first thing that immediately comes to mind is, this is going to sound horrible, I've actually been clearing out my friends.
Oh, yeah, I've been doing that
over
too.
the last year or so.
Friend cult.
Yeah, friend cult. I like a
cult.
good friend cult. It's not something I've probably actively done in the past, but I have been doing this now because I've realized that actually some people do add value and others do not. And it's better for me to not be around those people who I feel are kind of leeching off me in a way, or really not putting me in a good headspace when I'm around them, so that I don't trigger myself. No one can trigger me. They just do a thing and I have to figure out whether I'm going to go there or not with them. But what I'm actively doing is just not being around people who I know will put me in that position. Obviously my partner knows now. She understands quite a lot about it, kind of understands what's going on there. So that's good. It gives a little bit of ability to kind of be a bit more gentle with myself.
Your energy is so precious. Just to find it easier to hang out with people who have a similar brain. There's no judgment, there's no manipulation, there's no gray area. You can be completely yourself. There's no masking, so therefore there's less energy expended.
Yeah, and that's important, right? You gotta manage that energy.